Good morning, Wisconsin! It is so delightful to be here. It was a thrill to get on a plane. I was in Dallas, Texas, I think about 24 hours ago. And I was telling everybody, I'm going to Milwaukee. They're like, what's happening in Milwaukee? And I said, the Girl Scouts are happening in Milwaukee. Christy, thank you so much for your leadership here, for what you're doing for girls, for my introduction. My official bio that's printed in your program was done by my mother. She takes all credit. To Kathleen, your fabulous board chair, thank you for your service to the girls and for your constant prayers for our movement. To the girls, the parents, the volunteers, the supporters in the audience, thank you for not only being here this morning, but always being behind the organization to give girls a better opportunity for their lives. And to our fellow Girl Scout CEOs in the audience, we have the great opportunity today and yesterday to bring to Milwaukee 26 of our Girl Scout CEOs that are running Girl Scout councils across this region. So out of respect to them, I would like them to stand in the audience. They are here in support of their Girl Scout sister. Go ahead, come on now, Girl Scout CEOs. They've come in all the way from Delaware and Iowa and Kansas. Love it. Montana's in the house too. So thank you for being here. So I have the honor today to talk to you about what I think is the most critical issue facing the United States of America, and that is how do we invest in the future of the United States? And we do that by investing in a girl. You know, for me, I always look across the leadership landscape. Wherever I'm at, whatever room I'm sitting in, I look to see that it's reflective of the community that I'm living in or that I'm visiting. And I have great opportunities, actually, to travel across the country. And here I'm a data junkie, so I did some research. And I found that right here in Wisconsin, women make up over 49% of the state's workforce. You also count for 54% of adults with bachelor's degrees. But however, women remain underrepresented in many key leadership positions in both the public and private sectors. Women hold only 14% of seats on the boards of directors of Wisconsin's largest public companies, a figure that sadly has not changed very much over the past decade. I could go on and share that in government, unfortunately, only 20% of local elected government offices across Wisconsin are held by women, and only 10% of them in leadership positions. So I will say that in the context of this is an opportunity, right? If you look even in our nation's capital, and you've been watching the news, we saw something happen. We saw something happen that actually hadn't happened in over 19 years. We shut the U.S. government down for business. Now, I will sadly say I was there 19 years ago, working in the federal government when that happened. And so many of us sat back and said, we've got to change the dialogue. We've got to change the way people lead in the United States. Well, sadly, we've now had a generation of girls grow up, and it happened again. And it happened because, and if you talk to anybody on the Hill, they will say, we just couldn't compromise. We couldn't come to a viable decision. Now, interestingly enough, I was in D.C. when this was happening and had the opportunity to speak to some fabulous women in leadership there. And you may have read a Time article that came out this week that talked about a small group of female U.S. senators who said, this is time to stop the madness. And they got together in collaboration with other women in leadership and in the Senate and on the House side and said, we've got a solution. And these women came together and they convinced other people, and it grew, and it grew. Well, these women from the great state of Maine, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, the senator from Alaska, and Kelly Ayotte from New Hampshire, were the senators that really sparked this movement. Well, guess what? They're Girl Scouts. And so they showed that in leadership, it's not about always being right and always being the loudest or the first to the microphone. It's about bringing people together to do the right thing. It's about thinking about others before you think about yourself. It's about exploring alternatives that are going to have the biggest impact. Now, working with girls, by the way, they're my bosses, they're very clear with me. That is their leadership style. But what they say is, Eagle One, that's what they call me. They say, Eagle One, I don't get something. When we look across the leadership landscape in this country, we don't see a leadership style that reflects our style. We want to be inspired by people. We want to see people who are emulating the values and ethics that we want to aspire to. Well, that's where Girl Scouts comes in. Because we've been doing this for 101 years. And we did it at a space and time when actually it wasn't popular to stand up and say that this was the right thing to do for girls. And interesting, even today, there are people, and you may hear them, who disagree with Girl Scouts and feel that our mission is not important or one that should be valued here in the United States. Well, I will tell you that they are in the minority. That there are millions and millions of people that have been impacted by this great organization, that realize the value in this organization. And there's a whole generation of girls that are coming up through the leadership pipeline that will prove us right. That when you invest in a girl, you not only invest in her, you invest in her family. And with that investment, she reaches back and she pulls other people up with her. Now, I had the opportunity to take some of your ambassadors, your Girl Scouts, from all over the country to the White House last year, because I needed to share with the President of the United States the importance of investing in girls. Now, that's kind of easy because he has 2 girls, right? He gets it. And he happens to have an amazing wife, Miss Michelle Obama, the First Lady of the United States, who impresses it upon him every day how important it is to have female leadership at the table. And as I was explaining to him the value of Girl Scouting, I said, Mr. President, I have before you our Girl Scout awardees. These are the creme de la creme, the Girl Scouts. The Gold Award is the highest award you can earn in Girl Scouting, and only 6% of girls in Girl Scouting on an annual basis get this award. And he goes, oh, that's very interesting. Well, what do they do? So the girls explained to him what they did in their community service projects. And then I said, well, interesting enough, Mr. President, did you know that our Girl Scout alum are outperforming non-alum across the board? They're making more money for their families. They're having higher level of educational attainment. They're involved in their communities, even so far that they're volunteering more in their children's schools than non-Girl Scouts. And they love to vote, Mr. President. To which he says, well, how many people do you have? Well, I said to him, well, interesting you should ask that, because we recently found out in our 100th anniversary, we've got 59 million living alumni. To which he said, and they all vote? Now, I share that with you in all seriousness, is that we still have a lot of work to do. We still, as a community, have a lot of education that we need to pass on to other people who are not in this room today. That they have not seen that by investing in a girl, that there's an impact. And for us, our messaging has been around to get her there. Our hope is that in one generation of girls, we will create a balanced leadership structure here in the United States. Because unfortunately, this is what's happening every day in classrooms across the country. By the age of, let's say, about 8 to 9 years old, girls are opting out of leadership. They stop raising their hand in classrooms because they don't want to be seen as bossy. They get tired of the mixed messages they receive from adults in their lives, from the media they see on their television, on their handheld devices. And every day, this is what's happening. A teacher walks into a room. Imagine this. Walks into a room, puts a problem on a board and says, boys and girls, I want you to help me solve this really hard problem. It's critical. The answer to this problem will help not only save lives, it will develop our country in a way that we want it developed. I need you to help me crack this problem. Give me the best solution possible. But before she allows them to answer this question of 25 boys and 25 girls in the room, she asks 24 of the 25 girls to walk out that door, leaves one girl and the 25 boys to solve that problem. That's what's happening here in the United States of America. That for some reason, girls do not feel that they are empowered to make a difference, that they are empowered to raise their hand and say, I have something to give back. But that's what we do. And I want to applaud you for your support of Girl Scouts here in Milwaukee, here in this great state of Wisconsin, and that you will continue to ensure that our organization is viable and relevant for not only this generation of girls, but for those girls who are coming right behind them. And it's just not the right thing to do. It's an imperative that we do it. Because you may not know what your message today will do for a girl. Fortunately, I've had the opportunity to take sneak peeks into communities, into schools, into classrooms, to talk to girls. And they share with me, Anna, Eagle One, thank you. Thank you for believing in us. You know, I recently had an opportunity to travel, and I tell this story because I feel it's important to share with you. You know, I lived in a small community growing up, and unfortunately, I got those mixed messages. I got the message because of my way I looked, the statistics that I fit, the demographic that I represented, that somehow I was less than, that I wasn't as smart, I couldn't reach the same goals as other kids. And unfortunately, I heard those messages, and I felt bad about my future. But then Girl Scouts stepped in, and they said, not only are you worth it, you're going to make a difference. And so I decided to live a life of community service, and I went to San Antonio, Texas, sight unseen, to work for Girl Scouts. People thought I had lost my mind. They did. Come on now, we know this. They said, wait a minute, you worked for a president, a vice president, 2 governors, you're a lawyer. You can do whatever you want to do. Why do you want to go work for girls? They couldn't understand. Well, one day, I was helping with a recruitment event. And I met this young lady who was 16 years old. And I convinced her to join Girl Scouts. And she went on and she convinced 80 of her best friends in high school to join Girl Scouts. And she got involved, and within 6 months, they were doing community service in their local community. They were helping others. They were helping the food bank. Within a year, she had helped the mayor of San Antonio put together a program to teach kids how to fill out applications to go to college and to get scholarships. Well, I ran into this young lady about a year after that, and I found out that this young lady actually was considering doing something very drastic with her life. She had been homeless for over 6 years. Her and her mom and her little brother had been couch surfing. She was considered homeless. She'd been in so many schools in her lifetime, she couldn't even count them. And she didn't have a vision for her life. She was very depressed. And she said, Anna, I didn't see a future. I didn't see a future. But then there was Girl Scouts. Well, when I was sworn in as the 19th CEO of Girl Scouts, I flew her from San Antonio, Texas to Houston, and I had her in that audience. And I pointed to her to say that not only does this girl now know what she's worth, she's showing the national stage. She now crosses the country speaking on the plight and the circumstance of homeless children. She is saving lives. So, see, you never know. You never know what one word what one investment will do for girls here in the United States. So I personally want to thank you, not only for supporting this amazing CEO and her team and her board, but for believing in girls and understanding that the future of this great country not hangs in the balance, but is on a pivot point to do great things. And by supporting a girl, you are going to make that difference. Thank you.